Hello, I'm Jeff Edelman. I'm the host of Questions for Lawyers and the Florida Injury Claims podcast. Very excited today to bring you a new show to our network. We are going to be expanding some of the shows that we do. It'll be beyond just Jeff Edelman being the host. We're going to be bringing some of the best lawyers in the state of Florida to our network. And we're starting with the Florida Appellate Review with my dear friend, Andrew Harris. Andrew, it is absolutely an honor to be doing this with you today.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me, Jeff.
Can you tell everybody a little bit about you and why you are deciding to do this podcast?
Sure. So my legal background, I always knew I wanted to be a lawyer from the time I was an itty bitty. Unfortunately, both my parents were attorneys, and they actually both practiced together for a while. The marriage didn't work out, and so there went the legal partnership. But I always knew that I always thought I wanted to be a lawyer. I guess, and my mother certainly more than anyone, she always told me only lawyers know how to think. Now, of course, my dear mother was wrong, but that was her cute mentality of trying to encourage me to become a lawyer. I went to Florida State University as an undergrad. It really was because I loved Charlie Ward, honestly. When he and Florida State beat Notre Dame in 1993, it wasn't any more simple or complicated than that. It may not have been the thinking of an 18-year-old boy as to where to go to college. Loved my time in Tallahassee. Went to law school at George Washington in Washington, D.C., a wonderful, wonderful city. Couldn't have asked for a better upbringing there. And then I came back down to Florida where I was born originally, and I clerked at the 4th District Court of Appeal. And from there, at the 4th District, it's all about writing briefs, writing memos, research, writing. And that really was where I thought I had a niche. I never wanted to be in the courtroom cross-examining witnesses or doing depositions. It was just more my forte on trying to solve the puzzle that was there in terms of writing and research, which is what I really enjoyed. I then joined a local appellate law firm in Palm Beach County. I was there for 14 years, and just last month I started my own firm, Harris Appeals in Palm Beach Gardens, Florida. So that's my legal background. Family background, not that that's the ever so briefly, I've got 3 daughters, 2 human daughters, Anne and Alexandra. Our recent addition, our canine golden doodle, Arlie. I'm married to a local probate trust and estates attorney, Adele. And for those keeping track, we are all A's, all 5 of us. And I often mix up the identification of my daughters, and I call Anne Alexandra, I call Alexandra Anne, I call our dog Anne. It is a bit of a mess. In retrospect, I don't think Adele and I would have led to all of our girls being identified with the same beginning letter.
Well, it's funny.
Background. And go ahead. I'm sorry, Jeff. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say I have the same thing with Jessica. We actually have the same initials, JAA. She is the same thing. And Jacob has the J name, but we broke it with Benjamin. So it's not as confusing in the Edelman household.
See, the problem was, so Adele's beloved late grandmother was Hannah, and she always wanted to name a daughter, if she had one, Hannah. So Adele got pregnant. We found out we were having a girl. We realized quickly that Hannah Harris may not be the best name. At least so Hannah turned into Anne, and her late grandmother was known as Grandma Ann. Fast forward a few years later, Adele's pregnant again. We find out we're having another girl. Well, we look back at the card of names which Adele had written down before Anne was born. We were thinking of middle names, and Alexandra was a name there. And we said, how unfair would it be to our second daughter to be left out and not have a name, an A name? So that's where Alexandra came about. And then you fast forward to this year, and Alexandra, our 6-year-old, when we were getting a dog, she said, Daddy, you know our dog has to have an A name.
Oh, no.
And my beloved sister has a beautiful little poodle named Charlie, who my girls have fallen in love with, and Charlie turned into Arlie. So that's where Arlie was introduced to that.
It all snowballed from there. So
it all snowballed.
Yeah.
And we've talked about getting another dog next year. And yes, if we have another dog, my girls, my two human girls run the show in this household. There will be another A if that happens in the
Well, I'll
house.
make some suggestions around that time because,
So,
it's my business. So,
so that's my family of confusing A's in our household. That's my little.
well, and listen, that's why we do what we do, Andrew. I mean, that's why we fight as hard as we do for our clients, for the justice system, for our families. I mean, I know that's my inspiration, and I'm friends with you. I know that's a big part of your life as well.
Well, yeah, I mean, I look at, we're here, obviously the focus is on professional and legal and what I may be able to offer, but my proudest title will always be as Girl Dad. And that title, that came about for me where I sort of picked up on the tragic death, of course, of Kobe Bryant and his daughter, one of his daughters in January. And there was this beautiful story, which I saw on YouTube. It was an ESPN reporter. And she talked about when she was 8 months pregnant a couple years ago when she ran into Kobe Bryant at an event. And at the time, Kobe had 3 daughters. And so the ESPN reporter asked Kobe Bryant for parenting advice. And in the story, the reporter asked Kobe Bryant, if you have another child, do you want to have a boy? Do you want to have a girl? And he said, no, if I could have my way, I would have 5 more girls. I'm a girl dad. And he had 1 more girl. And then, of course, we know about the tragic end. But in seriousness, or it is serious, that title of Girl Dad, I just happen to have girls. But it's very important to me and in teaching my girls and trying to lead a good life for them as best as I can and set an example and let them pursue every dream they want to the best.
I know that you're doing that, and I
try. It's not easy, as we know, parenting. Parenting in 2020, taking care of those who have elderly parents, 2020 has been a bit of a cluster for everybody. And so we're all, right?
Absolutely.
Our clients, the community, we're all trying to get by it as best we can.
And that's why I think that these type of formats are so important. I mean, we are doing our hearings, depositions, mediations, all on Zoom. And I think it's really important to be able to reach people. And that is why I believe these video podcasts and podcasts are so important, to be able to educate the community, to let people know what's going on so that they know what to ask lawyers in whatever field they are in, so that they have the right person. And that leads me to, you're doing this Florida Appellate Review podcast. What's your motivation behind the podcast?
So my sole motivation is to help fellow trial lawyers in the community. I've been given a platform, I guess, because of the opportunities where I clerked at the 4th District. I had a wonderful mentor there, Judge Gross. I worked alongside appellate lawyers for 14 years in the community. And the way I view it is that the trial lawyers in the community, we all have different skill sets, right? I could never cross-examine an expert on a defense medical expert, even on the most simple thing, let alone complex things. But what I can do is I can try and help solve that puzzle on research and writing if somebody needs some help. And but it's not just formally. I think the platform here, I'm very active in our local listservs in the community, and I help people. I really believe in it. They can have a $10,000 case. They can have a $10 million case. I want to help people defeat insurance companies. I want to help people defeat corporations. I'm passionate for that. Corporations don't always do wrong. So I'm very selective in the cases that I take on formally. And when people come to me for informal advice, for better or for worse, I go through the weaknesses of their cases, because being passionate for justice is not being passionate to pursue justice frivolously, but it's to pursue it, when corporations do wrong, when insurance companies do wrong. I really believe in being passionate and fighting for them. And so the platform here, I think, is an avenue for me to give people updates on case law, important cases, important issues happening around the state of Florida, that can't necessarily, it can come about traditionally in an email format, through a newsletter. But one of the things in the pandemic, the use of technology has really opened up my eyes about expanding how we communicate. For me, to trial lawyers, people in the community can certainly benefit as well on some of the legal issues that I know about, but primarily my audience of trial lawyers, a 15-minute podcast twice a month on case law. Somebody's going to walk their dog. It's something they can pop in, and hopefully if they gain one bit of knowledge to help their case, to me, it's worth it. That's to me what it's all about, is to try and share the knowledge that I have, and help people and help their clients.
Well, if it's any indication, some of your contributions on the email listservs that I'm on, this is going to be extremely helpful for all of us in the trenches, fighting the good fight as trial lawyers, to have your bi-weekly advice and review of appellate law. You can do, that's something that we can't dissect the way you do. This is all you do.
It is all I do. A lot of people would think it's quite boring, but yes, what I do primarily, I'm in front of a computer all day, researching, writing. Of course, I argue meaningful motions. What I like to say is dispositive motions for summary judgment, motions to dismiss, jury instruction. Of course, jury trials right now are mostly on pause, right? But they will open up in time here. Informally, obviously as well, I help people, but yeah, I don't do depositions. I would make a fool of myself. I had a case some years ago where I was seeking attorney's fees against my opponent, and the trial lawyer said, well, Andrew, you can go in and handle it, right? Well, the night before, I had to pull up the evidence code to figure out how I could get my contract into the record, because I had never done that before. What's a simple process for most trial lawyers. I was terrified that I wouldn't be able to get that contract admitted into evidence. Now, if you asked me to write a memo on it, I could write the most beautiful memo for you if you needed an evidence hearsay issue. But here I was in that moment of panic. How am I going to get my contract admitted into evidence tomorrow?
Well, you say, it may sound boring to some of us. I don't think it's boring to you. What is it that you like most about doing appellate work?
What I like most is, to me, the creativity that I get. I will always put integrity and ethics first. I like to say when I write a brief that I will attack all the weaknesses of my own case. I hope that the appellate court doesn't need a statement of facts from my opponent, because I want to give them that. Without our integrity and professionalism, I should lose the case on behalf of my client. But I really like solving that puzzle. The case law, we're now 150 years into Florida case law. 18 decisions from 1849 are usually not helpful. They're almost impossible to read for most of us, because of the writing style. But I really like solving that puzzle and finding the answers that are out there, because the law is not black or white on most things, especially when people reach out to me, because people only reach out to me because of the gray of the law, and that there isn't an easy answer out there. And the art of persuasion, we like to think, what do we want from the judiciary, right? To call balls and strikes, right? What Chief Justice Roberts said at his confirmation hearings. Well, we want judges to call balls and strikes, but a lot of times it's hard to figure out whether that baseball is over that, we don't have artificial cameras in baseball. We still have umpires, human beings, right? And we still have human beings as judges. And there's a lot of gray area in good faith for where judges go. And I like trying to solve that puzzle to achieve the best possible result for our clients.
Now, Andrew, you're a board certified appellate lawyer. Not an easy thing to obtain. And I guess you have many different areas of the law that you're very well versed in, and you learn very quickly. But in particular, what are some of the specialties that you seem to be getting a lot of calls about from trial lawyers like me?
So my passion is personal injury cases, medical malpractice cases, tort cases. I mentioned insurance, defeating insurance companies. However, I do handle divorce cases. I'm very picky in the ones I take. Trust and estate and probate cases, I really like those areas of the law. I am picky in the appeals I take. If you've got two parents who are fighting over $100,000, I'm not going to take $50,000 in legal fees to go and have a case where they're fighting over $100,000. It just, I can't do that. You know, they can go hire somebody else for that. But I do like family law. I especially like helping when there are children involved. But my main passion is in the personal injury and the tort field, products liability. That's where I'm most passionate, and most not comfortable. But I tend to think that lawyers, when the more passionate we are, like any profession, the better the product when we believe in what we're fighting in. And I may not necessarily believe in whether a wealthy wife or husband is entitled to $25,000 a month in alimony as opposed to $18,000 a month in alimony. You know, those sorts of things don't bring me joy and in fighting for necessarily. They're entitled to lawyers, you know, $25,000 a month in alimony. The law may require it, but that's not what I enjoy most. So I tend to try and be picky and choosy in the cases and the areas of the law that I participate in.
Well, we certainly appreciate your commitment to tort cases, personal injury cases, and your involvement with the Florida Justice Association and Palm Beach County Justice Association. In fact, you're on the executive board for the PBCJA. You know, you're quite the resource for so many, and we really appreciate that. In particular, though, I know that you've become sort of a specialist in proposal for settlement law. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So proposals for settlement or offers of judgment, it's this little niche area in the law that the Florida legislature enacted some decades ago to incentivize parties to reach settlements. Now, the incentivization is that if a party serves a formal offer of judgment or proposal for settlement, and it's rejected by the opponent, based on the eventual math outcome of the case, the prevailing party who served the proposal which was rejected can be entitled to recover all of its attorney's fees from the date of the proposal for settlement forward. And so that is the stick, so to speak, that the legislature put in place to encourage parties to do what? To accept the reasonable offers in this formal. Now, unfortunately for our trial lawyers and for the community, there is no robotic computerized format for how to serve these offers. And so I developed a niche when I was a little bitty baby lawyer. Trial lawyers were constantly calling, well, I don't know, what about, how do I cross my T's and dot my I's here? Because my opponent, if they reject the offer, they're gonna say my proposal is missing a word and it's unclear about a release or confidentiality or other parties in the case. And here we are 14 years later, there still isn't a robotic format for a proposal for settlement. So to me, it is another part of what I like to do best, which is solve a puzzle. And especially so in the smaller value cases for our trial lawyers, the ability to recover attorney's fees in the case if they win, it's oftentimes the difference between them not being able to go forward and represent their client just because of the costs or of having to take a very lowball offer from the other side. And so it really, to me, fits in what I like to do, which is solve puzzles, but also to help clients and to help trial lawyers achieve the maximum recovery they can for their clients. So I get a lot of calls on it. There are a lot of emails on our local listservs where people are understandably still confused 14 years later after I started this. The case law is constantly changing or constantly evolving, and lawyers are looking for new and creative ways to try and get around past case law and the rules in place. And so it fits what I like to do best, like I said, in solving puzzles, and it fits into helping people, especially our folks who have the smaller value cases where they want to achieve the best possible result for their clients with this carrot of attorney's fees, if they do it right, if they serve the proposal validly and in compliance with Florida law.
Well, they will do it right if they have ever attended any of your seminars, or now we do webinars, and or if you do a podcast specifically on proposals for settlement, which I'm sure is in the cooker for you. So I'm looking forward to that. Andrew, I can't thank you enough for coming on today, and I'm excited about your new show, the Florida Appellate Review podcast with Andrew Harris. If anyone wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way for them to do so, and what's the best way for them to learn more about Harris Appeals?
Sure. So for better or worse, and my wife sometimes may say for worse, that little iPhone of mine is almost always on and available. Even when we're watching her Bravo TV, Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, which we watched last week to, everybody needs some quiet time away from the craziness of the world, right? Well, that's my wife's, enjoyment at 9 o'clock at night when we can put our feet on the bed. But in terms of being able to reach me, you mentioned my website, harrisappeals.com. My email address, it's andrew@harrisappeals.com. I tried to make it simple, keep it simple, stupid.
Big fan of that.
Right, big fan of that, exactly. My cell phone, 561-248-5995. Every email I send out has my cell phone in it. And I'm able to do that really because my clientele for the most part are trial lawyers. And it's very important. I just had a call last night at 7 o'clock from a trial lawyer who needed an answer on something, which was time sensitive. Well, I'm accessible. We can do that now with the remote technology, right, Jeff?
Yeah, that's how we're operating. We're all we're all lawyer broadcasters now. Who knew?
Right, exactly. Who knew, right? And I had a text from a trial lawyer at 8 o'clock at night last night who had a question, and I said, well, can I call you at 9 o'clock? I think that's when my girls are going to go to bed. Unfortunately, Alexandra, my 6-year-old, I had to read 4 Bernstein Bears books, not 3. And so it wasn't until 9:30 that I was, but in seriousness, I was able to, and I called the trial lawyer up at 9:30 at night, sitting in bed. That's part of what we can do, that maybe a generation ago wasn't so easy to do, where I could be a dad and then help out the trial lawyer. So I like to think of myself as being accessible, not 24/7. I do sleep a few hours a night, could use a few more hours like all of us, but I am certainly accessible. And that's part of my passion for helping folks.
Well, Andrew, I hope people were copying it down, but I'll certainly be putting the phone numbers in the description. And I welcome you to the network, and the Florida Appellate Review with Andrew Harris is going to be a regular feature, and I'm just very excited. I think it's really going to help a lot of us out there, us trial lawyers, to have you dissect it and kind of spoon feed us every couple weeks.
Well, thank you so much for introducing me to your network and all that you've done over the past year, and seeing what you give to the community. And so I'm just blessed that you invited me to have a small role here in helping our community out. So thank you, Jeff.
Well, thank you, Andrew. Well, if you need to reach me, my name is Jeff Adelman. You can call me anytime, 954-478-1997. Email jeff@adelmanlawyers.com. We'll come to you next time. I just want to close with this quote from Billy Carter. Sometimes even lawyers need lawyers. That's why you need Andrew. And best of luck to you on your podcast. I know it's going to be great, and we'll be with you next time. For Andrew Harris, I'm Jeff Adelman. Be well, everyone.
Take care.